Welcome to the Living Centred podcast, a podcast all about learning together how to live lives which are centred on Jesus. Everyone lives centred on something. Our goal is to learn together how every area of our lives, everything about who we are and how we live, can be increasingly oriented around Jesus and transformed by Jesus. He invites us to a rich and satisfying life, where the good news that he truly is enough changes everything about how we relate to God, ourselves, and the world. In each episode, a different person shares about what it's looking like for them to seek to centre their life on Jesus right now. As we hear their stories, we get to learn together and to encourage one another in what it means for Jesus to be at the centre of our lives. This is a journey we are all invited to, and a conversation we all get to be a part of. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, my name's Adrian, and it is so good to welcome you to this week's episode of the Living Centred podcast. And it is my privilege to introduce today Charlie, who will be sharing this week. Charlie, it is so good to see you.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh, that's good. As always, I wonder if we could ease you in by getting you to just tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, and what your life looks like at this point in time.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Charlie, and I moved to Birmingham for university, and I've just never left. So I've now been here for about almost 13 years.
Wow.
I've recently started a role here at Oasis doing some admin, which I'm really enjoying.
We're loving having you out.
Oh, thanks. And the rest of the time in the week, I spend navigating life with some chronic health conditions.
Wow.
And I also have a cat called Clemmy, and she makes a pretty great housemate.
Amazing. Well, that is a really good introduction into something of who you are. And from that easing in, we jump into the big question, which is, what does living centered on Jesus look like for you right now?
So it's interesting that just this Sunday, you actually ended church talking about Jesus' invitation to come to him and find rest. Yeah. And actually that is a verse that I've been living with for the past few years, to be honest, as well as right now. Yeah, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and you'll find rest for your souls. So, as I mentioned, I live with some physical and mental health conditions. Yeah. And a large part of what that looks like for me is having very limited energy. Wow. So I find I'm often quite weary, and I spend a lot of time thinking about and trying to rest. Yeah. And it turns out it's actually quite hard. Definitely. Yeah, it sounds simple, but it's a bit of a challenge. So living centered kind of on that for me at the moment means that trusting that God actually means it. He's okay with me resting. And kind of the challenge to me is to keep listening to his invitation to come, to rest, to sit and receive. Yeah. And it also means having some compassion for myself, giving myself permission to rest. Yeah. And as someone who used to love kind of doing, it's been a real learning curve to accept being.
That sounds huge.
Yeah, it has been. Both in learning to do that, but also the joy that's come through being. Yeah.
That sounds massive. I often say this each week, I've realised this. It sounds liberating in terms of realising that Jesus can meet you where you're at.
Yeah.
And that suddenly that invitation, come to me, all you who are weary, has this profound way of speaking to you within your chronic illness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And meeting you in that place.
Yeah.
Yeah, just profound, amazing. Good, as I would say. Very good.
It's pretty beautiful.
I guess then with that, if that's what living centered on Jesus is looking like, what is helping you as you seek to live that way?
Yeah, a few things. So the first I'd say, I quite like reading, and I've found quite a few books throughout the journey of learning to be that have been really helpful. So the first one I read is Beloved by Henri Nouwen.
Nice.
And that just literally talks about how we're the beloved of the Lord and kind of what that means, and that it's not based on what we do.
Yeah.
And then there's also a few kind of Christian writers who are also therapists that have written about kind of our relationship with God and how we relate to ourselves. So Aundi Kolber's work I found really shaping and informing. And then KJ Ramsey, also brilliant, and Dr. Alison Kirk.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's been really helpful.
And just to push you, I guess, a bit with that. One is, just quickly for those listening, we'll stick in the show notes kind of these different book titles, authors, so you can pick them up if you so wish. But if you could funnel it down, what's the thing that you've got from those books that helped you with that sense of, okay, yep, I can be?
I think they invite you to a space where you can breathe out and there's no pressure or expectation. They're very real. They're compassionate, and they have drawn my eyes to Jesus and to seeing him as compassionate and gentle with us.
Wow. That sounds so good. Every one of us needs that kind of space where you just feel like, yep, I can just breathe out here. And it isn't just breathing out and kind of left with emptiness. But I love that part, that what it then has done is drawn your eyes to more of the wonder of who Jesus is, and how Jesus is longing to therefore meet you in the wonder and beauty of who he is, and these parts of his character, of his gentleness, his meekness. It's just amazing. That's so good, Charlie. Thank you. I guess then, and maybe this does tip into this, is what are you discovering about who God is as Father, Son, and Spirit through this?
I think mostly that he's far kinder than I ever thought.
Wow. Say it again. That's good. It's good. Oh.
Yeah, he's far kinder than I ever thought. I think I've been discovering lots of things that he's not. That, he's not a harsh taskmaster. He's not disappointed with me. And he's not asking me to take responsibility for things that aren't mine to take.
Yeah.
Like it says, I think in the Psalms, the Lord is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, and rich in love.
Yeah.
And I'd say I've been discovering more of those things of God. Yeah, he's okay with my slow pace. He's not in a rush. And he doesn't need me to present what I've done for him. He just wants to be with me and me to be with him. Yeah.
Yeah. It just sounds deep. Sounds like this deep work that God's doing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think all of us need those moments of just hearing that God just wants to be with us. That he is far kinder than we ever imagined. That's really good. So then I guess in all your discovering, how are you then changing? If we were to have met you 3-6 months ago, how would Charlie today look different to Charlie then?
I think I'm getting better at honouring my limitations. So I'm accepting that I can't do everything. And I'm learning to listen and honour really what my body is telling me, and to trust that with the Holy Spirit within me, I can trust my intuition and just see how God has put those things inside me, and it's okay to listen to them.
That's really good. Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah.
And does that then kind of liberate you, I guess, in both knowing what you need to say no to, but also discovering things that you can say yes to?
Yeah. So I feel like that's kind of the point that maybe I'm at with this journey, and that the second part of that verse goes on to talk about, Jesus' yoke being easy and his burden light. And I guess I'm working out, okay, so come and rest.
Yeah.
And then also take this yoke and burden. And so what does that look like? And I think it is the things that we can say yes to. Sometimes I don't even notice I'm saying yes because it feels natural and free.
Sounds incredibly exciting. It sounds like this unbelievably deep work that God's been doing of just allowing you to come to peace with, okay, yep, this is who I am and this is who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just rest in this space and this place. Yeah. And then having got to this place is then this invitation of, and now there's some things that we're going to do together. But it's not going to feel like it did before.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
That sounds exciting. There's part of me is man, we should book in this conversation in 12 months' time and say, okay, what's it looking like now then? That's why maybe we will.
Maybe.
I think that would be good. Well,
maybe.
Thank you so much for sharing, Charlie.
Thank you.
It's just, as every time happens, it just does my heart good. And I just leave with this deep sense of joy of how God is working in individuals. And today it's in you. And just this privilege of just being able to hear something of that. I know for me, I'm going to be considering just that invitation to space. That verse that you spoke of Matthew 11:28-30 is one that I often come back to, but just I feel like at the moment it's just something I need to really live in, of just the invitation to space to breathe out and just to know Jesus providing by the Spirit his rest. And that's what I'm going to be doing over this coming week. I'm going to be like, yep, that's what I want to live with. That's what I want to find the space in with you, Jesus. That's me. How about you, those that are listening, my listening friends? What are you going to be considering from all the riches that Charlie has shared with us? What are you going to be considering over these coming few days? Well, lastly, I just want to say thank you so much for listening. And I want to pray for you. I want to pray that you would know more of the wonder of living centered on Jesus this coming week.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of the Living Centered podcast. New episodes are released every Monday, and if you enjoyed this episode, please do like and subscribe on your chosen podcast provider to receive them direct each week. Living Centered is produced by the team at Oasis Church in Birmingham, UK, and you can find out more and get in touch with the team via theoasischurch.com.